Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today you can see, I never know, Elizabeth, if you're on my left or your right when we're recording. I know what it is on the screen here, but so we have Elizabeth Zucker with us today. How you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Well, it's great to have you. We look forward to seeing you on May 6th at the Circuit of Success Summit at the downtown Four Seasons. We look forward to that and hearing your message. You've got a great story. And but like all podcasts that we do here on the Circuit of Success, Elizabeth, we always have our people start with a really wide and big question: is what has made you the woman you are today?
Well, I'm sure this is not the first time you've heard this as the answer. I would say it's my parents, right, and my siblings, my brothers, and I was one of those really, really fortunate people who just had an incredible upbringing. And there wasn't
awesome.
Much my parents wouldn't do for any of us. And more than anything, they spent quality time, I think, molding us and shaping us, but not to the point where we aren't our own individual people. So crazy parenting. Good parenting.
So did they, so how many brothers do you have? I heard you say brothers, plural.
I have two. So I'm not a typical middle child. I have an older brother and a younger brother. My older brother is much closer in age. And we're very close, but also very competitive. And then my younger brother is 6.5 years younger.
Okay. And grew up in the greater St. Louis area, or where'd you grow up?
So I was born in northern Indiana in Fort Wayne, but I went to high school here. So I think that probably makes me from here.
That matters. The question of St. Louis, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. That's awesome. So you are the CEO of Interior Investments, and so not an investment firm. When I first heard that, when somebody recommended you to speak, I'm like, wait, we're an investment firm. Why would we have an investment firm, right? So we'll talk about that in a second. So you're the CEO of that, which is one of the most reliable contract office distribution companies in America, really all over the world. You are the YPO Chairman of the Board of Directors, which is the highest seat in that entire organization. So that's a big deal. You're on the Arch Grants, and I'm sorry, but your Dukies, the Duke University did not win the NCAA tournament. You are a graduate of Duke University, so I'm sure you were cheering them on. Is that right?
I was. I have to say, though, I'm not sad that they got knocked out. Not because I didn't want them to succeed, but watching those last two nail biters, I get so stressed out. I can't go to bed after the game. Even when they win, I feel like the buzzer, I'm like so tense that it affects my sleep.
Yeah, your sleep, your business life, your family life.
Yeah, and I was in Hong Kong over the weekend, so I wouldn't have seen the final anyway.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's good. So talk to us about, obviously, leadership. You're playing a big role in a company, a big role in the organizations that you're a part of, in the entrepreneurial space, especially with Arch Grants. I'm very familiar with YPO. There's 27,000 chief executives around 130 countries, so that's amazing. But talk to us about, to our listeners, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people in upper management that leads organizations. Talk to us about leadership and what you've learned by being around so many great people.
So I would say what I have learned about leadership that probably is the biggest nugget is leading through influence. So you can lead through authority, and when you own a business and you're the CEO, you can tell people what to do, but I don't find it effective. And it's actually been my non-for-profit work that probably taught me this. More so with YPO than anywhere else, because when you're when you're sitting around the table with peers and trying to influence them in a direction and get consensus, it's a completely different leadership skill set than telling somebody what to do. And I think once I discovered that, I could then apply it to every facet of my life, including my role as a parent. You can tell your kids what to do, and then they look at you and say, why?
Yeah.
Why? Like 10 times. But if you can influence those around you by inspiration and getting them on the same thought pattern, or just getting them to think the way you're thinking, and I think it's just a much more effective way to lead.
So how do you do that? I mean, that's obviously we can talk about that, and it's easy to say, but it's much, much harder to do, I think.
I think passion or excitement about a topic, I think sometimes it's easy to underestimate the impact or influence you can have on another human being if you're really excited about an idea and you're really committed to it and you're willing to do the hard work to execute and go toe to toe and work alongside somebody. I think it goes a long, long way. And I think listening, just really listening and putting yourself in someone else's shoes allows you to understand where they're coming from.
Yep.
And potentially influence their mindset.
I like that. I'm writing notes. I'm a note taker. I like to learn from great people like yourself. So passion and listening, because I think it's true. I mean, if you don't have passion about what you're doing, people see that very, very quickly, and it's really hard to follow, especially in leadership, somebody that's not passionate. So definitely agree with that. Let's talk about maybe a time in leadership where it was tough, because we all have those roller coaster days, right? Where one part of the morning you're maybe conquering the world, and maybe at lunchtime you feel like the world's crumbling, and then again you're conquering the world in the afternoon again. But when was there a time you made a leadership decision that was not going to be popular, it was the right thing to do, and it ended up working?
Thinking of one. I would say it probably comes to more individual choices with employees over my career in interior investments. And when I've gotten frustrated with an employee or coworker's response to a choice that we've made as an organization, and been flippant and not put myself in their shoes and really thought about what it must have felt like to hear what was said to them from their perspective. Yep. I think if you really think about the impact of what you're saying or doing, what it has on other people, you're able to either reconsider and say you were mistaken and wrong, which I'm not afraid to apologize, and I'm not afraid to say I've made a mistake. I recognize I'm not perfect. But I think more than anything, if you realize you were correct and you kind of stand behind your choice and you take another go at maybe the why you made the decision you made with more empathy than you did the first time, I think it's usually pretty effective. And I think too, one thing I think about a lot as a leader is not only I'm insanely competitive, like to a fault competitive.
Right.
I think, and I own it. I know I'm not just competitive with other people. I'm competitive with myself. Yep. And I think it pushes me to always try to be the best me and recognize that I can't do things for other people. I can try, but they have to be their best selves. And right. I just play the role of helping them be their best selves and looking in the mirror and being self-aware.
I like that. So I think the competitive side is a big deal. And so when you think about that, I think you got to be a student of the game. So how do you stay a student of the game in the crazy busy world that you live? And you've mentioned children. So how many kids do you have?
I have 3. Okay.
So 3 kids.
They're amazing. So yeah, I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. They're both boys. And then I have an 8-year-old daughter.
Okay.
And they're completely different people with completely different dreams and ideas and how they're going to impact the world. And I'm so happy I have 3 because they each bring different joys to my life. So they're interesting. You asked how I stay current as a leader. Yeah. I am fully committed to lifelong learning. I don't think anybody ever stops. I think if you take it on as a lifelong choice and a journey and you recognize that it never stops, I read.
Yep.
And more than anything, if I spot a good leader, I keenly watch what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I try to absorb as much of that talent and instinct and insight as I can. And I think I try to never stop growing or just recognizing that that there's more out there.
Yep. So when you think about reading, are you reading articles, you're reading books, or what are you stuff in your industry, personal growth type stuff? What are you reading?
I don't read a lot in my industry, candidly. I really don't. Well, that's not true. I don't read about furniture per se, but I love reading about thought leadership around workplace strategies, collaboration, anything that would tie into creating a great place to work. That interests me. I love Peter Drucker. He's probably, in my opinion, the best thought leader out there. Oh, yeah. And when I was elected in March as the chairman or the global chairman elect of YPO, so my tenure doesn't actually start till July 1. Someone who I cherish deeply sent me a stack of, I can show you, hang on, they're sitting a stack of, and one's missing, a stack of books to read. And not only did he kindly send me this stack of books, he also sent me the order in which he would recommend I read them in.
So not only here's the books, but here's the way you're going to read them.
Exactly. Books like Bold from Peter Diamandis, and I mean, he's kind of all over the place, honestly. Seneca. So, I mean, I like reading, and I don't always read from cover to cover. And if I don't like a book, I don't finish it.
Right. Yep. I'm struggling with one right now, but yeah, I'm a 10-page guy. 10 pages a day is my deal. If I can read 10 pages every single day, minimally, you're going to end up reading, 20 to 25 books a year. So that it is a lot. It is a lot. So what are your habits and rituals? I mean, obviously with 3 children, you're traveling all over the world, from Hong Kong to Boston to St. Louis, everywhere in between. What is the no miss items for Elizabeth Zucker?
Well, so I've lightened up a little bit. So I am an avid exerciser. Okay. So I used to get up at 4:30 every single day. Like, didn't matter where I was, what city I was in, I had to get a workout in. And it wasn't about weight or fit. It's more about it's what I need to kind of take the edge off and really. My children always say, you're such a better mom when you've worked out.
Mom, go work out.
It's a little release for me.
Yeah.
But I think with more travel and age, I've also found other things that help balance me, like meditating, just being mindful, taking 10 minutes to try to calm my mind and open it up to relax and also let myself off the hook. So I'm not as disciplined as I once was.
Yep.
I've also really gotten tuned into sleep. So I wear an Oura ring. I don't know if you've heard.
Oh, yeah. I just heard about that literally like a month ago.
It's the coolest thing. So I heard this doctor who's Canadian speak about, he did a study with a basketball team where he basically told them he was convinced they can improve their performance just through 2 additional hours of sleep a night. And so they started tracking their sleep, and had nothing to do with training or nutrition, nothing other than just giving them 2 additional hours of sleep. I think it made me realize that there's 3 kind of legs to that stool. There's exercise, what you put into your body, and if you sleep at night and take care of it. And his research is all around how your brain actually flushes itself out of its toxins when you get in certain types of sleep. And you have to have enough sleep to hit REM deep. I mean, if you're only sleeping 5-6 hours, you're not getting that full spectrum, and you're just not as sharp intellectually.
So what time do you go to bed then if you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning?
Well, I don't go to 4:30 every day anymore.
Oh, okay.
I've actually gotten much more flexible.
All right.
So sometimes I work out during the day and I come back to the office, and sometimes I work out in the evening. Sometimes I hop on a bike with one of my kids and go bike riding. So I used to do classes every day at 4:30 or meet my running group. But I do go to bed by 10. Okay.
Well, that's nice. See, my problem with that is so I have 4 children. I don't know if I said that earlier. So I have 4 kids, 13, 11, almost 9, almost 5. It's like, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's like you run and gun all day long. You can't see, I've got my Peloton right over here in the corner of my office. I figured I got to bring it. Do you like it? Do you love it?
I thought I would like it, but I didn't know how competitive I would be on it. I thought it wouldn't be as good as taking like a cycle bar class, but it's more about competing against yourself.
Right.
And
a little bar on the right side's a bad thing for me.
And I've never done a live class, actually. I do all the downloaded ones.
Those are pretty cool because I find myself, I work out harder during that because I'm chasing the guy or gal in front of me. And I'm usually like, I'm only 41 years old. Why is this 70-year-old man beating me? Oh. It's like, this is incredible.
There's nothing more frustrating than seeing you can't see it when you're on the Peloton, but being a cycle bar class and somebody who looks like they're completely out of shape just destroys you.
Yeah. Gives you a little more competition there. I like it. So I think I was going down the path of, I like my own time. So maybe it's 10 o'clock at night and I like what I call Brett time of finally kids are in bed and nobody wants anything, is just be able to even do nothing but think. So how do you do that? Do you get think time? Do you build in strategy time? When are you doing all that stuff?
I do it when I travel. When I'm on a plane, especially a longer flight, it is my time. It's my time to read. It's my time to sit and do nothing. It's my time to watch a series on Netflix and forgive myself for potentially wasting time. But when I'm home, when I'm in St. Louis, I really don't take much me time, and I'm okay with it. I'm not resentful. And I'm sure you've mentioned your kids are of a similar age. My kids are of the age now where they don't wear me out. They're fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do stuff together. We can go out for great meals together. We can ride bikes. We can run. We can play games. I mean, my daughter got her little finger out at me last night. I picked her up from gymnastics. She said, "Mommy, I want to destroy you right now in rummy."
That's awesome. I want to destroy you in rummy. You can't beat that game.
You.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let the kids win, right?
I never let my kids win.
That's right. I'm in the same camp. My wife and I both. My wife and I, we'll like run around the house, see who can beat each other, run around the house in a certain amount of time just to beat the kids. So,
I agree.
But I think that's good for them. How do you, and maybe you don't have a lot of this, but how do you help that I always call it the little guy over here in my shoulder that maybe gives me some negative self-talk? How do you smack that guy or gal off your shoulder and tell them to leave you alone?
I would say as a general comment, I was born an optimist. I think there are people that the glass is half empty every day and they fight it. And there are people that the glass is half full. I really don't. I sometimes feel bad about choices I've made or things I've said when I'm tired or frustrated that I could have said them in a much more compassionate or kinder way to another individual. I always feel lousy if I've hurt somebody's feelings. Intentionally or unintentionally, and never feel bad when I make somebody feel bad about themselves. But I don't have a ton of negativity in my life. And if I do, I either distance myself from the people that bring it to me or I tell them. I think,
even
as an employer, when I hire someone on an interview, it is the thing that I probably assess. If somebody comes across to me as neutral to negative, it will never work.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's hire with an extreme amount of diligence, right? I don't know if have you read the book by Matthew Kelly called Culture Solution?
No.
It just came out in January, and add it to your stack of books over there. But The Culture Solution by Matthew Kelly, phenomenal book, just about culture, and it talks about that hire with extreme diligence and just taking our time, but hiring the right people. So food for thought. I want to go back to habits and rituals. So what are the no miss things for you? So you've got exercise, obviously, is one of them. What else is there?
I try to talk to someone that is important to my life outside of work, like one person at least once a day, and sometimes it's not even speaking on the phone. Like I try to very intentionally, if I have a thought about someone in my life that's positive, or I have a memory, or I see something that reminds me of them, I used to keep it to myself. I share it.
Yep.
I love to share my thoughts with other people if it makes them feel good, and they don't even have to respond. I don't do it because I expect something in return. I do it because showing gratitude to me is like the best feeling in the entire world for me.
Right. So it helps you in your process throughout the day because you've given back to others and helped somebody else feel good about themselves, hopefully, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's talk about how you prepare for tough meetings or even a tough discussion. So if you know you got a meeting with me later today and it's going to be a tough meeting and you're going to have to either deliver some tough news, bad news, whatever it may be, how do you mentally prepare and physically prepare for that meeting?
I always put a couple bullets on a note card. I'm like a huge note card person. I have stacks of them. And the funny part is I learn through writing. It's how I kind of institutionalize something in my memory. So if I'm going to do a speech or a talk, I don't typically use a teleprompter, but if I've written it myself and then I just have a couple bullets to make sure I don't get lost somewhere in the middle, I seem to do okay.
Yep.
I don't think I mentioned this previously. For me, authenticity is the key to everything. So I try not to over rehearse or can a conversation with anyone. A large audience or a coworker, an employee, or my kids, I try to just be authentic and hit the big points and allow it to be natural in that moment.
Yep.
And if I get frustrated, I walk away. I try not to take my frustration out on others if I can help it. And if I do, I apologize.
And wouldn't you also think that I love meditation as well, but I think the better and longer down the path you get with meditation is you can almost meditate in that tough meeting. Wouldn't you agree? I
think breathing helps a lot and almost stepping outside of yourself. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Muse headband. I haven't used it. It's in the box on my dining room table. So meditation
Muse, M-U-S-E?
is hard for me. So this is a device that you put on your head and it tracks your brain waves and it allows you to tell when your mind's wandering and you're not calming your mind, and
Wow.
it chirps like a little bird at you.
You're doing this while you're meditating?
You meditate with it. It helps you meditate. So I don't know how you meditate, but some people, I think if you practice the art, you can do it on your own. A lot of people use like a Sam Harris app or something to help.
I use either Headspace or I've been actually doing the Peloton on the app. I don't know if you use the app besides the bike.
I do, but I didn't know there's meditation on
there. It's awesome. Yeah. So I like it.
Yeah. So I think that there's all different ways to do it. I used to practice a ton of yoga. That helps, I think, just is, you quiet your body, quiet your mind.
Yep. I like that. So those are the big habits. Obviously eating, I'm assuming, is one of those as well. Can't outwork a diet, right?
I think a lot about what I put into my body, and I'm not militant about it. I enjoy food. I love food. But I think a lot about the quality of what I put in my body. And I'm trying to get better about that with my kids too. So I think when your kids are on the go, it's sometimes the fast choice or the easy choice seems like the right one. But for myself, I really try not to eat processed foods at all, which is actually not hard.
No. So tell me how that's not hard, because like today I'm looking at my Chick-fil-A cup over here. I had about 15 minutes, but I did grab the grilled chicken sandwich and fruit, which is better than the fries and the fried sandwich or whatever.
Yeah, I like that little kale salad too. I think that Chick-fil-A is as good as it gets if you got to get fast food, for sure. But I just try not to eat as much of the processed foods that have coloring and sugar. I'm fortunate as I've aged, sugar I just don't care for it.
That's good. Do you guys meal prep at home at all?
Well, so so I used to cook a ton. It used to be a priority. It used to be what I think in some ways made me feel like a good mom. If I cooked a good dinner, my kids are so busy. They're not all in one place for a single point in time ever. Maybe that's my excuse or my justification.
It's true.
I'd rather pick up healthy food for them on my way home from work and spend my hour or two connecting with them, doing something, versus cooking a good meal that they don't care if I made it or not, honestly.
Right.
And my time is prepping, cooking, and cleaning the kitchen versus having a conversation and going on a bike ride or playing a board game.
Yeah, they're going to remember that. I like this. So where do you get that from?
I don't know, but breakfast I do cook. Every day I cook breakfast. People think I'm insane. Like, I cook breakfast, and I'm like a short order cook too. So
I like it.
Fried, you want them scrambled, you want avocado toast, you like fruit cut up. Like, I give them, because I feel like, I guess my mom beat that into me.
Start the day, right?
It doesn't work if you don't eat, which is not true if you look at actually time restricted eating.
Yeah, you're right.
But
so let's talk about fears. And I'm assuming, because I'm a glass half full type person too, but sometimes we have those fears in our mind. And I always like to ask people, the fears that you have put in your mind throughout your career, how many of those have actually blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
I don't have big career fears, because I guess I've always felt like you can hit the reset button and start over. As long as you're ethical and you treat people well, your reputation isn't really all you have, especially in St. Louis. Everybody knows everybody.
That's right.
And if you have good values and you make ethical, good choices, whether your business would succeed or fail, I feel like you could start over and the trust would be there and the integrity would be there, even if it wasn't financially successful.
Yeah.
So I guess a fear would be if I ever got to the point where I made an unethical, or I just can't ever see, I don't think I could live with myself.
It's not happening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not something I think I have in me. So work, I don't have a ton of fears. But I'll tell you, as a parent, my biggest fear is that I don't instill in my children what my parents instilled in me, which is the ability to create my own happiness. And you can educate your kids, you can buy them things, you can do all sorts of things, but you can't always control their ability to create their own happiness. And if you can influence that in your children, there's not much they can't accomplish. And they'll be happy, right?
Yeah, I like that. So let's talk about those values you mentioned. So when you look at a business relationship or a personal relationship, do you have defined values like, trust, respect, all those types of things? Do you have those kind of identified and what's important to you?
For me, trust is, I don't know how you have any relationship, personal, business, anything without trust.
Yep, I would agree.
It's a big deal. Integrity, trust, and hard work are probably the three for me.
Yeah.
And transparency. Like, I like to know where I stand, and I really appreciate it when somebody tells me when I've said or done something that's hurt them or didn't feel right to them. And I take the opportunity to do the same for others, because I don't know how you grow as a person without that feedback.
Yep. I would agree. So talk about the, I don't know how old you are, and it doesn't matter, but maybe the 30-year-old, the 35-year-old, whatever year you want to pick. What would you go back and tell that person if you could?
So when I was 30, I just had my first child, like 6 weeks before that. So I would say in my 20s and 30s, I didn't enjoy life like I do now. Like, yeah. I actually am present today. And when I'm with someone, I am 80% of the time fully present. And if I'm not present, I own it and say, hey, I need to answer this text, or this is distracting me. Do you mind if I step out and make a phone call? I think my life lived me in my 20s and 30s. And I think now I live my life. And I don't know what shifted, other than I kind of tapped into my vulnerability. I think I used to value this aggressive toughness or competitiveness, and now I see it quite differently. I think I love emotion and vulnerability, and if I had it to do over again, I would tap into it probably sooner versus later.
Yep.
But thankfully, I have some more years, I hope.
That's right. That's right. So, and that's my next question you'll see on here is how do we slow down and enjoy the journey? And would you say, and this is, I don't mean to give you an answer that's going to make you sound arrogant, because you're not that way, but would you say that has come in enjoying the success, or I shouldn't say the success, enjoying the journey has come with success? Because I think when you're in your 20s and 30s, right, you're out there, you're Elizabeth Zucker, you're trying to make a name for yourself, you're trying to get ahead, right? You're being ethical, you're trustworthy, you're doing all the things you got to do. But in my opinion, I think it's tough. What I have seen now at 41 is I can start to enjoy things more than I could at 31, because I was so worried about kind of my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. And I think once you kind of, not that we ever get there per se, but I think it's easier when we're at this age and you've had some success in our lives.
I think when you can see the fruit, I completely agree. Whether it's your kids growing up, or it's your coworkers or your employees really get like kind of stepping into their own and growing. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing growth in another human being. And you've been a part or a tiny piece of that ability for them to excel or grow. Yeah, earlier in your career, that's much harder because the wins are shorter term or more immediate, and you don't have all of that experience to look back on. So for sure, I think the further you get into your journey, the easier it is to step back and take a deep breath and enjoy it.
Yep.
But I think it's also important not to take your eye off the ball, right? I mean, I can't imagine retiring at 65 or not working or not being on boards of non-for-profits and not, I can't imagine.
Sounds terrible.
My intensity is pretty high.
Yeah.
I'm okay with, my dad always teases me that I have 2 speeds, on and off.
Yeah. You're either 100 mile an hour or you're 0 miles per hour, right? Well, I got to think that's what's helped you. I mean, obviously in your career at Interior Investments, but also, I mean, when you're the chairman of the board of YPO, you've got a lot of hard charging, or I'm soon to be chairman of the board of YPO. There's a lot of hard charging, 27,000 of them that also are built a lot like you and I, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody is successful, but it all came about a different way. And so I think for me, the interesting part about YPO as an organization is learning those stories of each individual member when you touch them, and having a deeper understanding of how they ended up where they ended up. And a lot of them have failed many times or have had terrible tragedies in their life and have been resilient and rebounded. Or, I mean, I'm an extrovert, and I don't mean that in the sense that I'm overly outgoing, but I get my energy through others. And so I think I've come to own that as I've gotten older. And I realize that other people are my fuel. They are what make me happy, and they're where my energy comes from. And so if I can surround myself with 27,000 smart people who are incredibly successful and giving. And we have this unbelievable safe haven of trust. It's like an oil refinery for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Where I just drink it all in, and I give back as much as I can to other people. It's an amazing organization.
It really is.
You mentioned Arch Grants at the beginning. It's funny. I never saw myself getting involved with Arch Grants. I didn't really know that much about them. But the thing that really got me was I thought, like, as my kids graduated from college, would they ever want to move back to St. Louis and work and live in this ecosystem? Other than hopefully they would want to come back and be near me. And I thought, I have this opportunity to help change the narrative for St. Louis. And if we can attract entrepreneurs and startups to come to our city, which is absolutely an amazing place to live and grow and have a business, that would be an incredible thing to do. And
it's happening. It's happening in the city. It really is.
It is happening. And it just breaks my heart when you see the negative narrative about St. Louis, because St. Louis is an incredibly wonderful place to own a business, raise your children, and to be a part of a community. I can't think of a better place.
I 100% agree.
So many people like to take the negative approach and focus on that, and it's a shame.
Well, that's why they're not talking to people like you and I, because we're not doing that. We kick them out of our life, right?
We win them over.
We're going to leave a lot of stuff for May 6th at the Circuit of Success Summit. We wanted to just take a little sneak peek into your life. And where can our listeners find more of you? Are you a social media person?
A little bit. So I'm on Instagram, but that could be because I like to monitor my children.
Exactly.
I'm not on Facebook. And I find this fascinating. I have no desire to be on Facebook. And I'm confident my kids will never be on Facebook either, because they think it's like a dinosaur.
That's funny. You and my wife might be the only two people I know not on Facebook. So
yeah, I mean, I
good.
really have no interest in that voyeurism. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I think you can be a business professional and not be on LinkedIn. You got to check out your customers and your competition, right?
That's right.
But yeah, I'm not huge on social media.
Awesome.
You asked what I read. I love The Economist too. I'm a loser.
Oh yeah.
And Harvard Business Review, and I listen to the BBC.
Good. So. I like it. Well, thank you, Elizabeth Zucker, for sharing your insights with us. We greatly appreciate you being on the Circuit of Success. It was great spending time with you today.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'll see you on May 6th.